I'm Christopher Hine, and welcome to our continuing series on the concept of Haragi. Haragi means belly power, and generally that's a blanket term for the ideas of making good alignments and using your body in a good way. The simplest idea of Haragi is simply to keep my hands in front of my center. So if I need to do something over here, instead of moving my hands over there, I would move my belly over here to make a good alignment to that. However, there are things that look like Haragi that are psychological deceptions. I'm going to show you a classic psychological deception from Aikido and talk about how it's not Haragi, but sometimes can give the impression of that, and why that can be fun, but sometimes dangerous to play with, and you should be careful. So along with the concept of Haragi, which is actually how I align and use my body, sometimes we can have demonstrations that look like it's Haragi, which would be very impressive Haragi, but in fact isn't. It's kind of a psychological manipulation. So one classic Aikido demonstration of this is if Sasha had the end of this stick here, and Josh and I were both to grab the stick. If Sasha were to convince us to push the stick down flat, right? So meaning we can't drive it down at weird angles or anything, that our job is simply to push the stick flat to the ground. So Sasha convinces us and conditions us to drive the stick flat like that. Now if we were to do that and Sasha were not to let us go on that side.
So right now Josh and I are both really trying to push this stick down.
But you can see that Sasha's easily able to keep us from pushing it down. Now that seems impressive. That seems like some really impressive Haragi. But actually what's happening is a really simple psychological factor. So when Josh and I believe that the stick has to go flat, meaning it has to go totally flat to the ground, if one end is kept up, so Sasha just won't let that end go down, what will happen inside my brain when I'm really convinced is instead of just pushing at an angle, which might make this easy for me, I will try to keep it flat, right? So I'm actually helping Sasha. I'm holding up on this side. Now, if multiple people are involved in this, then what happens is if I were to suddenly realize that I'm not pushing down all the way, another person will often realize that that's the case. So as this starts to get out of alignment, then Josh will change, and now all of a sudden it feels difficult to push down. I'm really trying to push down, and it won't work. So what's happening is a psychological situation there where I'm convinced that we have to obey some special set of rules. So it's not actually Haragi, but it looks like Haragi. And that's another demonstration that we give to kind of explain how this stuff works. So it's important to understand there's lots of ways that we can give these kinds of demonstrations. And a lot of people said that what Ueshiba would do as a demonstration was never what he would teach in class. Sometimes to make a good demonstration, it's fun to show these kinds of interesting ideas, and they really do show important key concepts. However, they're not the essence of Aikido. There's a system that's underlying all those things that's much more important to Aikido overall. However, these concepts are really fun, they're useful, they help your students kind of understand how the body works and how leverage works, so I highly recommend practicing them, but understand the limitations of these exercises. I'm Christopher Hine. Thanks for watching our series on Haragi.